welcome back to the Football Tribe YouTube channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect once again. Hope you guys are doing well. I hope you're having a beautiful Monday morning. It's about 10:45 a.m. That is when we are coming to you live. I do hope we'll make it a routine to always be there, to always be here by at least 10:30 a.m. That's between Tuesdays and Fridays. And then on Mondays, I intend to be here as early as 10 a.m. That is going to be the objective going forward. But thank you for always being with us. For those of you that have managed to always be with us. It's a beautiful Monday morning. There's plenty to catch up on. There's some breaking news regarding Liverpool transfers. So while our friend Maria Gomo is not yet here, I do not think we would have missed out on math, but I would have loved for her to be here to hear this news because it is we've spoken about before on the channel in respect to Liverpool transfers as well as all the things they intend to do in the transfer market. So it is quite exciting. It's quite beautiful in as far as the transfer window is concerned. So do keep your eyes out on that. But so when we get it all started, because there's plenty to talk about. Yesterday we did discuss that review of the game between Arsenal and Newcastle. For those of you that were with us last night, and then some drama in the Italian Serie A involving the two title chasing pack. That's Inter Milan and Napoli, both being forced into draws. One a goalless draw, I think, for Napoli, and the 2-2 draw for Inter Milan against Lazio. And then, of course, you did have then you have all the transfer speculation revolving around Manchester United, around Emiliano Martinez, and this morning Liverpool. And all that. Then Mikel Arteta's promise and request to the Arsenal fans, not to them on that group of players, speaking about their troubles throughout the course of the campaign, the desire to make history or to write history at the Emirates Stadium and that kind of thing. So there's plenty really that's been happening. So, but then last night we touched upon many things, including Liverpool transfers, Arsenal targets. We spoke about the Africa Cup of Nations that will be played in December. That's for AFCON 2025. That will be hosted in Morocco. We spoke about that as well. So there's so many things going on right now as we speak from the world of football. But we'll kick things off at Liverpool, where this morning we just got news that Liverpool are advancing well in talks with AFC Bournemouth over the potential signing of Hungarian left back Milos Kerkez. Now, Milos Kerkez is only 21 years of age. He was born in Serbia, but he does play for the Hungarian national team. He's managed about 5 assists this season and scored 2 goals for Bournemouth. That's as far as the Premier League is concerned, and has really impressed so many gigantic teams, including Liverpool as well as Real Madrid, who have been pointed in his direction for left back solutions. But it looks like Liverpool are the ones making headway. Now, this comes at the backdrop of Liverpool completing a deal for Jeremie Frimpong, who they are signing for Bayer Leverkusen on a 5-year contract. That's a Dutchman, and now they are adding. They want to add a Hungarian. Their ranks in as far as fullback positions are concerned, and this one is a left back. Only 21 years of age, like I mentioned, but very good player. He did join. AFC Bournemouth as a 19-year-old, coming in July 2023 after 1.5 years at AZ Alkmaar. But before joining AZ Alkmaar, he was at AC Milan, where he would report the attention of AZ Alkmaar, and just within a year and a half, he was there, capturing the attention of AFC Bournemouth, who took him on, and in just 2 seasons, he's been quite impressive and attracted the attention of the big boys, including Liverpool. So that's the big news coming in as far as transfers are concerned this morning. Then briefly on transfers, Manchester United are strong contenders or competitors in the signature of Viktor Gyokeres from Sporting Lisbon. We all know that the manager at Manchester United in Ruben Amorim is Viktor Gyokeres is a former manager, so that relationship may look to continue, although it is being reported that Jason Wilcox, the technical director at Manchester United, would prefer the signature of Liam Delap. That's the player he has identified for his Manchester United side. But we'll wait to see. I think if Manchester United do beat Tottenham Hotspur on Wednesday in the UEFA Europa League finals, then the will be in the world that they do have a Champions League football, and that means they can invest more in big players, but also they would need more senior players in as far as their goal scoring chances go, because things have not really worked out fairly well for both players leave the club. So again, that brings back the conversation of whether Manchester United can sign both Viktor Gyokeres and Liam Delap in the same window. Remember, earlier reports did indicate that Manchester United were leading the race to sign the English striker from Ipswich Town, who has managed to score 12 Premier League goals this season, and I think provided 2 assists there. So that's the news in as far is concerned for their striking role, but they are really in signing Viktor Gyokeres. Then the other player that they are being linked with a move to is Aston Villa goalkeeper, Emiliano Martinez, who has attracted a lot of interest from the Saudi Pro League. But as of this morning, reports do indicate that Barcelona, I really don't think hold so much water, given the age profile that he is not quite very different from that of Marc-Andre ter Stegen, as well as Viktor Gyokeres, who was recently pulled out of extension to stay at Camp Nou and next season. Then clearly it is a tale that maybe the rumor of Emiliano Martinez could be more of wishful than reality, as opposed to that linking him with the potential move to Manchester United, where we all know that they are looking forward to keep Tom Hinton as one of their squad goalkeepers, but they are looking to move on Altay Buendia, who will be leaving the club. That is what is expected in as far as the summer is concerned, and we all know that both manager, fan base, and everybody else in the footballing world has questions over the overall abilities of Andre Onana. So them being attracted or being linked with a potential move for Emiliano Martinez does sort of sound a bit more concrete as compared to the rumors linking the Argentine goalkeeper with a move to Barcelona or elsewhere at the moment. So that's that at the moment. So in as far as transfer news is concerned, when it comes to those big clubs, of course, there's more rumors and gossip, including United being interested in branding Bournemouth and that kind of thing. But we'll get into the transfer gossip a little bit later in today's broadcast. But for now, those are the major stories making the rounds as far as this morning is concerned. Briefly, we'll also be talking about that game between Brighton and Hove Albion versus Liverpool that does come later tonight. But where do we start? I think let's start at Arsenal, because they did play their final game yesterday at the Emirates Stadium for the season. Of course, they still have a game to play against Southampton at St. Mary's Stadium, but in front of their home fans. Yesterday's 1-0 victory over Newcastle was their last game. Of course, we all know Declan Rice scoring that one, the heroics of David Raya having as many as 5 saves. Of course, him being the orchestrator of his own problems for some of the chances or the shots that he did face, especially in the opening 10 minutes of the game. But all that notwithstanding, I thought it was a very good game, and I thought there's that bit of reaction for us to reflect on in the aftermath of the game, and some of Mikel Arteta's comments while speaking to the fans after that game. And of course, he spoke about the season in general. He spoke about how injuries have really hampered their season. He spoke about fans not losing hope that big things are to come in the not so distant future, that he believes in the talent of these players, this group of players that he's built, that kind of thing. He said any other team with the kinds of injuries they've had to suffer would have well finished way worse than they have managed, though that they have coped well. So here is some of what he had to say in the aftermath of that game while addressing the Arsenal crowd yesterday. So he said, "We had a great success, but make sure, but make sure that chasing that dream doesn't get blurry, because and you do not see what these players, the staff, the football club is doing, reaches the dream with enthusiasm and positivity towards next season." I think again, that's him reflecting on the season, calling on to the fans not lose their faith, not lose their hope in this Arsenal group of players who have sort of been impressive and are looking forward to finish in second place for the second consecutive season, which then has raised so many questions over the abilities of the manager in Mikel Arteta, whether he will deliver silverware to this Arsenal team that have not won a Premier League title since 2004. So there are questions over that. People are wondering that this group of players is also capable, but he said this more than once, at least in the last 1 week, that when he envisioned the season, he thought that coming into this game against Newcastle at the tail end of the season, they will be at home celebrating winning the Premier League title, or at least the UEFA Champions League, or being in the finals of the UEFA Champions League. And that's how he had envisioned it. But unfortunately, they came so close in the UEFA Champions League, and yet so far, because they got knocked out by PSG, and yet here we are speaking about them in the Premier League, that they conceded or lost to Liverpool there, because Liverpool were more consistent. He went on to say that, "I said before, we have to start to create our own history here in this stadium. We have certainly started this season. There is much group of players, I'm telling you, have the hunger, they have the quality, they have the talent, are going to make it happen." I think that was his promise to the Arsenal fans in as far as next season is concerned, but that they do have whatever it takes to go ahead and when he talks about creating their own history in this new stadium, we all know that Arsenal have not won a major title ever since they moved to the Emirates Stadium. They've only managed to win a couple of FA Cups, and Community Shields. If you do in whatever respect you may need to look at it. So, and he goes on to say, and Martin Odegaard also spoke about it, that that 3-0 victory over Random Edits says, "I for you, bro." Thank you so much, Random Edits, and welcome to the Football Tribe YouTube channel. Kerkez is my name. Thank you for joining us. Good to have you here. Kindly let me know where you're joining us from. But thank you for the love and support. Really much appreciated. So, like I was saying, Martin Odegaard was speaking in reference to that 3-0 victory over Real Madrid in the quarterfinals of the UEFA Champions League, and he did say that it was a memorable game, that one that they will look on to for inspiration going into the future, and that's part of perhaps the history that they are trying to create around the stadium, that it can be a kill zone even for the biggest teams across Europe. Anyways, with on play, like I said, they still have that game against Southampton to conclude this season, and needing just a point for them to mathematically secure their second place finish, because if Man City win their remaining 2 games and they do not win, get a point and finish in as high as second place, then it's going to be the case that they do finish in second place for the season, third season running, then they need to secure a point against Southampton. So Mikel Arteta had this to say: we need to, as Arteta praised the effort of the whole, including on holiday before, because I know what the players have been through, this stuff this season. Any other club in dream of. So please, thank you to the players, thank you to the staff, and thank you to all of you for your support. So those were some of Mikel Arteta's comments as they played their last home game of the season at the Emirates Stadium yesterday in that 1-0 victory over and Newcastle, a team that is turning out to be one of their rivals. So that's that only. Of course, in the post-match press conference, for the wider context, he did speak about the transfer plans, how they need to do things a little bit fast. And in any case, Liverpool is leading that way. That by example, you see how fast they're moving in the market before they even move on some of the players that they intend to move on from that core squad. They are already making serious moves in the market. And that's why they are moving in for Milos Kerkez, like I said, who may cost them up to about £45 million if they are to land him. Then, excuse me, and look at things there briefly, because there were some interesting fixtures. But yesterday, Kylian Mbappe scored as Real Madrid beat against Sevilla by 2-0. The other goal scored by Jude Bellingham. But the reason as to why I speak about Kylian Mbappe is because he's now scored 41 goals for Real Madrid across all competitions this season. And yet, it's not been the best of seasons for Real Madrid. So clearly it tells you that the Frenchman, how he has fallen in his shadows ever since he joined the club. Then maybe the other key result was Barcelona were beaten at home by Villarreal. They lost to Villarreal by 3-2. Lamine once again shining in that game. He did score one, then forced a goalkeeper into a save. That one of the players that I do enjoy to watch at that Villarreal side is Ayuso Perez, formerly at Newcastle. For those of you that do remember him, he's so far scored, I think, 19 goals this season in the Spanish La Liga. Then there's also Nicolas Pepe, a former Arsenal player in that same team. So quite very impressive for them. But like I said, our attention is going to be on the Italian Serie A, because AC Milan won't be playing in Europe next season, because they were beaten by AC Roma by 3-1 yesterday. So that's the news there. And then what's the game? I'm looking for, yes. Napoli were forced in a goalless draw against Parma. That was away to Parma. They had a scare. They thought Inter Milan were winning on the other side in their game against Lazio, but that game ended in a 2-2 draw. Former Barcelona and ex-Chelsea player in Pedro scoring a brace in that game, one of them being a penalty, as the Lazio forced Inter Milan into a 2-2 draw. Of course, Inter Milan had found the lead through Yannick Besic, that's the defender at the death of halftime, and then Denzel Dumfries had scored in the 79th minute to sort of restore Inter Milan's lead, but a penalty in the 90th minute by Pedro cancelled that out to make sure that the points are shared as they look to stifle Inter Milan's ambitions to defend the Scudetto, going with just a game left to play. So that, I thought that was quite interesting. Then Como were also in a 1-1 draw against Hellas Verona, because and I think they are unbeaten in the last 6 games. That's Como under the charges of Francesco Sola Fabregas. So on match day 38, that is next Sunday at 4 p.m. AC Milan, but more importantly, Como will be at home against Inter Milan. That's a very important game. Empoli will be up against Hellas Verona, Lazio against Lecce, but Napoli will be at home at the Diego Armando Maradona Stadium to play up against Cagliari. Now, the reason as to why those games are interesting is that if Inter Milan beat up against Como, then and Napoli fail to, then Napoli win, then it's head-to-head that matters above goal difference, because Napoli is ahead by just a single point, 79 points. Inter Milan have 78 points following those results. Now, Como, like I said, even if Como win that game, there's really nothing to fight for. They will only finish as high as 10th. The only thing they can improve if they win that game is possibly their goal difference, which is a -1 at the moment. And then for Cagliari are already safe. They won't be relegated this season. So, I mean, they have nothing really to play for in their game against Napoli. So clearly, you can see the picture. But whoever wins it on the final day will be champions. Napoli will be at home against Cagliari, while Inter will be away to Como. So there's joy on the final day of the Italian Serie A. We'll try to keep that the Premier League, where Liverpool will be in action tonight against Brighton and Hove Albion for their game of match day 37. Like I spoke in yesterday's lengthy broadcast, Liverpool had already kicked off their, end of season celebrations after being crowned Premier League champions for the 2024-2025 season. Were in Dubai, the manager had to go to Ibiza and that kind of thing, but they are back. Do they still have anything to play for? Not really, apart from personal ambitions, because Mo Salah was speaking to Gary Neville in one of the Sky interviews with Sky Sport, and he spoke about trying to match some of the records. For example, he has 18 assists so far this season and would potentially want to match or even break the record of most assists in a Premier League season, which that record is being held by Thierry Henry. 2002-2003, he provided 20 assists in that season. It was then equaled by Kevin De Bruyne in the season of 2019-2020 when Liverpool were winning the Premier League title. Then the other player that tried to match that finished at 19 assists. That was Mesut Ozil in 2015-2016 season when Leicester went on to win the Premier League title. Then below him, you have the likes of Frank Lampard with 18 assists. Of course, you do have still Kevin De Bruyne in that mix. That was Frank Lampard for 2004-2005 season, and then Kevin De Bruyne in 2016-2017. That season, for those of you that do remember, when Chelsea were winning the Premier League title, I think, yes, Chelsea were winning the Premier League title under the charges of Antonio Conte. And then if you rewind things further back, you'll find names like Francesco Sola Fabregas for his, I think, first season at Chelsea, 2014-2015, when they were winning the Premier League title under the charges of Jose Mourinho in his second homecoming. And then you'll have to look back to all that were 18 assists. And then you still have to look back at the same player in Francesco Sola Fabregas for the 2007-2008 season when he managed 17 assists at Arsenal. For those of you that do remember that season, I think Arsenal trying to compete for the Premier League title, then they did lose a couple of players to serious injuries. I think that's the season when Eduardo gets, I think, a broken leg and that kind of thing. I think that's the same season in which they went to the finals of the Carabao Cup and lost to Birmingham. Around that time, I think 2007 or 2008. So that's the kind of, anyway. Mo Salah is just trying to chase that, and we all know he's on a time of 28 goals. So that's a combined total of 46 goal contribution. He may look to better that. He says it's an ambition that he would want to, to try and pursue. So that's the individual thing that is there for him. And then Liverpool, given the way the table is, bearing in mind they goes to one, in terms of the table, even if they win their two remaining games, they can only reach 89 points, which 89 points was as much as Arsenal managed to accumulate last season, but still finished second. So, and that's what Mikel Arteta sometimes spoke about, that sometimes luck is just not on your side, because the point tally that Liverpool could get out as best point tally this season is 89 points, which last season were not good enough to win a Premier League title for Arsenal and that kind of thing. So really, is that to really ponder about. Anyways, moving forward, between the two sides, I think there have been as many as 15 meetings. Liverpool have won majority of those, as many as 9. In as far as the Premier League is concerned, Brighton have only beaten up against Liverpool twice. There have been 4 draws involved there, but Liverpool have not won the last 2 fixtures at the Amex Stadium in the Premier League, although they did beat up against Brighton in the Carabao Cup at the round of 16 by 3-2 at the Amex Stadium. I think Cody Gakpo scored a brace in that one, as well as Luis Diaz, while Terry was one of the goal scorers for Brighton and Hove Albion in that game, from what I do remember. So, and I think, yes, the other goal scorer was Simon Adingra for Brighton and Hove Albion. So that was that. And so, and yet the Premier League, Liverpool beat up against Brighton by 2 goals to 1. That is at Anfield. It was a similar score even last season when they met at Anfield. So, I mean, but the fixture really, Liverpool have the upper hand. Like I said, I do not think they can still play with the same motivation after winning the Premier League title and knowing that whether they win the game or lose it, there's nothing that's add on to them. I do not think the situation is any different from Brighton and Hove Albion. Although for Brighton and Hove Albion, if they win the game, it would take them to 8th place, which again is not a European competition place, because it would take them to 58 points, three above an 8th place Brentford. So that's as much as there is for Brighton to play for. And when you look at recent form, like I said, Liverpool only have 3 wins out of the last 5, including that one loss. The wins coming up against Spurs, Leicester City, and Western United, while Brighton and Hove Albion on the other side have a loss and 2 draws, as well as 2 victories over the last 5. Did come in a 4-2 defeat against Brentford, yes, and then those did come against Newcastle and Leicester City, while they did win the last game against Wolverhampton Wanderers by 2-0, and then they beat up West Ham by 3-2. What's his name? Carlos Baleba scored the winning goal with the plan strike victory against West Ham. So that's situation. Of course, at this stage, it's hard to really predict what kind of a starting 11 Ancelotti will try to bring, because I mean, like I said, they've already. This is a chance to give your young players, your academic players that you think are prospects for first team football, to try and bring them in and see if they can really compete and that kind of thing. That's why you've had in some games, you've seen the likes of Harvey Elliott start games. We did see Conor Cody start against Arsenal, and then of course Alexander Arnold came off the bench. So there's that bit of expectation. So I think the one thing is that Mohamed Salah would start because of what he's chasing. But for all the other senior players, you really we did see, I think, in that game loss to Chelsea, the likes of Alexis McAllister did not start that game. So it's that kind of game. But because Liverpool do not have so many injuries, apart from Morton and Joe Gomez, who are the injured players. For Brighton, Solimatch, Ruta, Kadoigu, and James Milner are some of their injured players. So anyways, in as far as the probable lineup is concerned, Alson Ramsey-Baker could be in goal, Andy Robertson, Virgil van Dijk, Ibrahim Konate, and Conor Bradley, Curtis Jones, alongside Ryan Gravenberch, Dominic Szoboszlai, Mohamed Salah, and Cody Gakpo, as well as Luis Diaz to start. On the side of Brighton, we can Mats Wifey, John Paul Van Hecke, Adam Webster, and Pavis Estupinan there. And then Kankuba Minte and Danny Welbeck. So again, still that's a very beatable team for this Liverpool side. But you do not think that they will have the kind of inspiration that they would need to really go ahead and win this game. And that's why I'm saying I won't be surprised if it ends in a draw, maybe a 2-2 draw between these two sides. That's my expectation on the night. So that midfield, I mean, Carlos Baleba, very good player. Yakuba Minte, very good player to look at. But maybe Kaul Mitoma, Liverpool in behind and exploit those spaces that they may leave behind. But when Liverpool usually play with Ibrahim Konate, he does really well to cover the right back in their absence every time they do make a move. So let's wait and see how the game does fare. Then maybe João Pedro is the other player that you think about in that Brighton side, who by the under the charges of Fabian Hatzler. So I do not think he's done really bad for his first season in as far as English football is concerned. I think he's done really well. Anyways, what else? We all know that one prime is no longer that big a defender. He is a good player, but yeah, that's what I can. Let's move on to some of the transfer gossip, because I can say we've hit the half-hour mark in as far as today's broadcast is concerned. Manchester United, like we spoke about, according to some publications, they are interested in signing Brand, the 25-year-old Cameroon international, will be opening an offer from an unnamed club, which would in the FIFA Club World Cup, which starts in June. Now, because Inter Miami are going to be playing the Club World Cup, by the way, Inter Miami are having a very poor run of form. I think they only have 1 week run of results. Remember, Inter Miami have players like Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez, Sergio Busquets. They have Jordi Alba, some of those big former Barcelona players, but it's not really working out well for them at the moment. But ever since, because in the FIFA Club World Cup, and we all know Cristiano Ronaldo is 40, and the next FIFA Club World Cup will come in 4 years' time. It has been talked about that it may go down in history as a competition that he never played in. But because his contract is ending with Al Nassr, he may have a chance, if he can't sign for a club that is in the FIFA Club World Cup. Well, whether he can go and sign for a 1 month contract or 2 months and play in the FIFA Club World Cup and then return to wherever he may want to return, remains to be seen. But they've been reports from the Saudi Pro League of that he should leave their club, and not in so much in bad faith, but in saying, please retire. You can no longer cut it, and I think you're affecting the way we should be playing in one or the other. So we beg that you please step aside. Those are some of the reports that have been Pro League in regards to Cristiano Ronaldo. Then Aston Villa are interested in signing Barcelona forward Ferran Torres, the old Spanish international, could cost him about £42 million. And then English winger Will Steele, 32, is in talks to become, English manager Will Steele is in talks with Southampton over a possible role at the club, while Lyon's a 21-year-old French winger in Ryan Cherki, we've spoken widely about Ryan Cherki, is a target for Manchester United and Liverpool, has confirmed. So, and I mean, Ryan Cherki is not a player that I would want to see Liverpool sign. I mean, when you have a player like Mohamed Salah adding Ryan Cherki, I think he could arguably develop into the next Mohamed Salah if his career takes the right trajectory. I mean, he's that good a player, and because of the way I enjoy good players, I would hope that his career does not take the kind of turn that Hakim Ben Ahfaz did. But he's such a good talent. He's such a good talent. And then Manchester United are also keen on Sporting Lisbon, a Portuguese international, and that's according to several clubs interested in Aston Villa's Argentine midfielder Enzo Berenechea, a 23-year-old who is currently on loan at Valencia. So, and then Bayern have not lost hope of keeping former Manchester City winger Leroy Sané. The 29-year-old German international is out of contract next month. He's also a player that we've spoken about briefly before. While Nottingham Forest are looking to keep a hold of Morgan Gibbs-White, 25 years of age, as well as Callum Hudson-Odoi, they're looking to offer them new contracts to keep them at the club. The Napoli need a new centre forward for next season and are plotting a move for either Lille's out of contract Canada striker Jonathan David or Liverpool's Uruguayan forward Darwin Núñez. So that's according to Calcio Mecre Sato, an Italian paper there. Anyways, that's the gist of the conversation. Good to have you this morning. I want to send my shout out to you, Maria Momuto, a Liverpool fan, Safa Ali, a Real Madrid fan, then Boss Royal, yes, Boss Royal, and all the rest of you, Tamar Prince, all of you are usual suspects. Thank you so much for the love and support. So yeah, and then James Mihi. Is it James Mihi? James Mihi. Yes, our friend James from India. Yeah. So let's wait and see how things take shape in the next coming few days. But it's been good having you here and hearing from you. Let's keep it locked on. See you guys in a bit. That's maybe later today for that game between Liverpool and Brighton and Hove Albion. See you later. Bye bye.